Thank you. I'll switch to German. This was a very impressive exercise. I promised a lot. Next year we will have legs as well. This year we didn't because he would probably have fallen down and then he might have broken his legs. Well, Innovation Lab guests become friends is the topic. Let me introduce the panelists from your point of view. On the right, Christoph Hoffmann of the 25 Hours Hotels. He's the CEO. And in the center, René Massatti of TrendONE, the head of strategy. You probably got what he is, and Jens Pippig, Pro Sieben Sat.1 Accelerators, and he's the managing director there. I'm a journalist, and that is why I would like to try to come to terms with the topic in 45 minutes. Well, that was a joke in terms of semantics. And at first sight, the terms which we have on our title, Innovation Labs Guests Become Fans, these are things which might not necessarily have something to do with each other. Innovation, renewal, labs, laboratories, experiments, tests. So an innovation lab is a factory for the production of new ideas. It has to do a lot with technology, as you see here also when you look at this little robot next to me. And the second half, guests become fans. A guest is a human being, and you think of well-being, and guests have hosts, also human being. And it's about emotions and empathy. And if we bring this together, we are discussing laboratories, idea factories, and people help other people to feel emotions. And it's about empathy as well, and not just about the product itself, but also how customers will alert to the products, what we call marketing today. Let's start with a product. As hotels present themselves, it's a lot about emotions and empathy. All ads visualize that guests feel well when they are received by their hosts, and the guest visualizes the message that he will only feel good here. The question is, has that anything to do with reality? So that is my question to all of you. I don't mind who starts. Our robots, we've just seen one. And in some hotels, there are some robots in the Welt am Sonntag, a weekly, there was a headline, and they don't expect a tip. Well, if that is the main reason. Are robots the new mega trend? Is that the future of the hotel business? And to come back to the key question, will robots make guests become fans? Who would like to start? Mr. Hoffmann, you? Well, I think it's not that clear. It depends a lot of the kind of hotels, which is very varied. The landscape is very varied. New technologies and also robots will play an important role in some hotels. But it's very interesting what we will see in the future. Mr. Massatti, I think to talk about robots, there's more a hype in hotel business. Behind is a megatrend, autonomous systems, different approaches, virtual co-workers, or intelligent personal assessment. It's more software than hardware, and we have already certain things, and we see more of that. I think it's not the question whether robots will substitute human beings in certain fields. The more it will be on the relationship level. Robots might assist and might be a very attractive additional feature because he might take over certain functionalities. But the future of robots in hotels is a great headline, but I think we are far away from that. I think that robots will not influence the degree of innovation in a hotel. The problems are somewhere else. Typically, it's the highest level to say you might use robots for certain functions, but that is probably not what will be the USP for a hotel. In the beginning, the hype is great, and everybody will come to look at it, but it's not enough to for the whole experience in a hotel. It's just a small part. And here the key features of a hotel are necessary to make guests become fans to come back to the original question. Robots can only make a minor contribution to that. Mr. Hoffmann, Mr. Pippig mentioned experience. Your hotels, the 25 hours hotels, stand for topics. You tell stories. In contrast to other hotel chains, which are more traditional, which rather convey the feeling of perfect boredom. What do they lack to create empathy and emotions? Is there a lack of new ideas in the hotel sector in general? Well, there's the technology level, of course, and there are a lot of things where we are not the first movers. We are not leading here, but on another level, the emotional level you have mentioned, and at that level, I do not really know how much innovation and the new ideas, which might be funny as a robot, but if they really create an additional value, I don't know if at the emotional level, innovation is really necessary, or if it might not be a better idea to refer to the analog level, to low-tech, because people want to experience something new, and our hotel world at 25 hours, and we are still oriented towards the good old grand hotels, which might have existed 100 or 150 years ago, creating a space in which you could meet people, to have a very cultivated conversation in which you could do not come directly from the hotel business, but as I assume you are very often a guest in hotels. So what would you expect? The more traditional hotel experience, a comfortable bed with a functioning shower, or do you expect an experience? Well, I think it's great if the bed sheets are clean and the shower is working, but unfortunately my experience has not been that positive. In a lot of hotels, in various jobs, which I traveled, I think it would be great if my invoice address was always correct. And I think it's good to have functioning internet. But these are basics, actually. And where any form of innovation and happiness which a robot might create is then toned down. It's like an elephant in a porcelain shop. You turn once and then everything is broken. That is the first thing with which you can differentiate yourself positively. You have it in a lot of hotels, but in others not. Booking processes, and that might be something where innovation might come first, and that is what we see in our startups, which we promote in our ProSieben accelerators, booking platforms, to make these processes digital so that it's working smoothly. And not necessarily in the hotel itself, because this is much more difficult. You need space, etc. It's much more capital intensive. Innovation processes are slower, which is okay. But I think at the higher level, the technological level, here innovation is much easier, and that we need innovation. Mr. Hoffmann, let's come back, nevertheless, to the hotel as a space for experience. How do you create new themes for hotels? Who is involved in this process? If you want to come up with a new theme, do you have an object and you're looking for a theme, or is it the other way around? Do you have a good theme and you are looking for a good hotel wherever it is? Well, the second would be the ideal word, that you think of a fantastic story, and then you look for the site and the building. But in real life, it has been the other way around. We have been more opportunistic, well, with some limitations. We said only big cities, urban environment with a lot of people, and where the microsite can live. That was the precondition, and then we looked what we would get. And the script, we compare ourselves very often with the film industry. I think there's no director who has shot a film without knowing the script, and we compare our stories with scripts. And a fundamental idea which goes through the whole story, and usually we develop it in line with what we found. Some are better, others are worse. If we are in the Hamburg port, then the new ideas come as a wave, and there are other sites which are more difficult. But now we are in a phase where we're trying to turn around the process, because we have now developed hotels in all German language cities with more or less good stories. But when we start to expand internationally, which is our intention, the planning of ideas and approaches plays a bigger role. Innovation Lab, as a working title, has been around for a while, because we think we need a core creative team which will look into international cities where we're not yet, to develop things which we can implement immediately, not just to do it more based on chance, but to have a more planned approach, a collective of a team of creative people, not just a single person or an institution which is creative. We call it also creative ping pong. Well, our experience hasn't been very positive with star designers, with stars do something and who want to do what they usually do. It's much more interesting if we have a team. So then the hotel is not a design hotel, but really a hotel which provides a lot of experience, a different experience. Wouldn't it be a good thing for you, a creative ping pong? But usually it's only two who play ping pong, table tennis, but the children sometimes do it also, sometimes with more people. You come from TrendONE, and your business idea is professional trend scouting. You would be the perfect guy if Mr. Hoffmann needs a great idea, a great new idea, or just an idea which is based on or came out of a trend to assist him. Please tell us how this professional trend scouting is done. Who are your customers? And what is also very important, what does it cost if one would like to buy your services? Well, professional trend scouting. We have been doing TrendONE for more than 10 years at international level. We have more than 80 scouts working in 19 language regions to identify or to scout microtrends, as we say in the trend research. There are different approaches. Either you have a top-down approach and you look at the big mega trends in the world and try to bring it down to the business level, or you look at the weak signals happening worldwide, concrete innovation that is done by anybody, anywhere, and you scout them and put them into a funnel, which is the process. We enter these trends into a database in Hamburg and Berlin, and of the 1,500 inputs every year, 250 are filtered out, which come every month into a data bank, and this is based on the requirements of our customers. And usually you have good ideas or best ideas in-house, but also through inspiration. These might be sectors with a completely different business model of your own. Usually they do not come from the hotel business, but they have different business models. And these ideas are then put into a database which you can access. But what is more important, we also go to people. That has been the request of customers, which has developed over the past 7 or 8 years, a more personalized approach. So no hotel, no company is the same. We not only want for our sector, but for our we want to have a very concrete and tailor-made solution for our company and hotel. And we also want to look beyond our sector. We know what the challenges are in our sector, what our competitors are, but we need external inspiration. Please give us things we're not thinking about and work these out with us in a process which are to be in the process to be defined. And at the end of the day, we have new ideas for products and services and business models. Our customers are very much cross-industry, from automotive to travel, insurance, everything. And we have focused very much on Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, but increasingly also internationally. And what does this process look like? As you asked about it, will it become better? The longer you discuss it, the better the briefing is, the more intensive the coordination is, the better the outcome will be. And that is why the solution proposed will be tailor-made. There is not one creative, but there might be a contact point, the head of project, but you have to have a very broad approach, a team, because otherwise the team will not incorporate the corporate culture. You too have ideas and just resources are lacking to implement it, then you come into play. You help people to who want to turn a great new idea into a new business model. You promote startups. Could you tell us? I've never seen it, but no. The format Hülle des Löwen of your competitor, RTL, is this serious? Do you offer the more serious format? Well, this is not an entertainment format which we have, but at the end of the day, we identify young enterprises, which is a large part of our job. We look at the market and see what kind of innovative startups there are. And from the applications we receive twice a year, we select 5 companies which we include into our accelerator. And then we work with the teams for 3 months, give them capital and access to mentors, networks, and we look at their business models and work with the teams where it's necessary. And at the end of the program, we give them €500,000 of television ad space to promote their ideas. And we do this in all industries as long as it has and customer focus. Travel is a very important focus. Other interests would be e-commerce, health, finances. Anything with a broad audience and which is good for television. Have you had hotels, tourist companies? Yes. Which were this in our last ones? We had Trip Travel, a hotel booking system with a price guarantee and optimization of existing bookings up to check-in. So you get also proposal for alternative hotels, which might be in the similar price range, but offering more services. We also frequently have travel companies, and last round we had applicants who weren't successful but had ideas, which were very interesting. A lot is towards better recommendations. Where should travelers go to? Well, the whole thing that the ones doing the booking do not know where to go to. So startup thinks that this might be a great opportunity to bring travelers where it's beautiful. And well, the level of matureness wasn't there. We say it's an interesting idea, but the startup is not yet far enough to have television advertising. You need a certain size and critical mass, of course. Otherwise, you have television ad, you get a lot of requests and cannot process them, which isn't good either. What I would like to know, I have always been employed by the media company. What makes a media company to invest into startups? You might have money, but usually media companies do not have that much money nowadays. Well, maybe because they haven't done it early enough. Good point. I think it's important to study trends on the market. There are various reasons. Well, we are financially interested. If we have a shareholding in these enterprises and hold shares, we hope that after a certain period of time, the share price will go up, the value will go up, and I can sell the shares later. That is one thing. But the other thing is, it's good to get again and again new ideas to promote innovation in your own company and to see ideas early, which you might use in your own company, in partnerships, for acquisitions. And it's also important to position yourself on the market as an innovative company, which is also great PR for ProSiebenSat.1. And that is the reason why we think it makes sense to work with startups. Okay, Mr. Hoffmann, the test that Mr. Pippig is doing with the startups, with his team, you do this yourself within your group. How do you test if an idea is economically viable and which might interest one or the other coming from the hotel business, the investment which you need to realize such a theme hotel? Is investment higher per room as in a normal hotel of your category?
Well, I think so. There are certain KPIs. Well, we could actually put the cart before the horse. Can we generate economic success due to the fact that we plan hotels or develop hotels in a slightly different fashion? Which value added does this economic success entail? And is it really worth it to make a higher investment? There are two areas that we're in charge of. That one is the equipment of the hotels. Are we going to deal with that? Of course, we always have to compare ourselves with our competitors in the market segment. And we spend a little bit more. I can't give you the exact facts and figures, but I think on average, we probably spend 10% more. We also spend money on cooperation projects together with other partners, be it in hotel and catering in Berlin or in Zurich. We cooperate also with friends in Vienna. with which we jointly developed a common catering project. Of course, this costs money, but it is meant to take people by surprise. Overseas containers in Hamburg, which goes up and down, of course, is a bit more sophisticated project than a meeting room. This too costs a lot of money, but at the end of the day, it is really worth it because it leads to a much stronger economic success in our operative business. Another important subject matter is emotional and technological innovation. In the field of technological innovation, the situation is similar. At the current moment in time, we spend a lot of money on being much better equipped in the future concerning all the subject matters that you just mentioned. It's really annoying if you have to stand and wait in line in order to check out, or even if you want to check in, because I have to fill in this bloody form with my address and everything. And we are working on that. It's not easy in the hotel sector because there are many interfaces. We do not have a comprehensive industrial concept because everybody works in isolation. This is why it takes a bit longer, but we spend a lot of money on it, hoping that we'll generate additional revenues with it. Mr. Massatti, just imagine the following situation. Mr. Hoffmann comes to you and wants to get a very good hotel room in Castor-Brauxel. It is similar to Bielefeld. Is that really needed? It is a rather provincial area. People are very often bored there. But Mr. Hasnan does not come up with an appropriate idea. Could you come in and help? If you don't come up with a concept for Castor-Brauxel, never mind. But generally speaking, if he wants to open up a new hotel, what are the chances that he has to take into account? I hold the view that this is exactly the danger. You know, you should not say that if you want to open up a new hotel, this is the trend that you need to take into account because you need a common concept. If you want the guests to become fans, it depends very much on the region that you're in. So you have to come up with a customized concept for the region. Everybody loves a good concept. And this is why you have to have the right concept. If you select a particular site, you would have to come together and develop a customized, specialized concept for a particular hotel. And then, of course, you need to think about the trends that need to be factored in. For example, this might be emotional factors or technical aspects. And back to what you've just said, basic things need to be offered, such as Wi-Fi for free, a strong Wi-Fi available each and everywhere. Now, we've got the example of this hotel which opened up in Baja California, where you can even access the Wi-Fi on the beach. Of course, the expectations of millennials will continue to grow, because if they have the money to travel and if they want to share everything, they also need to share the emotions stirred by the hotel. You know, you cannot afford to offer expensive access to Wi-Fi any longer. These are basic services that need to be made available. And there's more to come. At the technological level, for example, if you want to play a pioneering role, there are a lot of experiences that you can provide to the guests before they enter the hotel. Virtual reality will assume ever greater significance in the future when it's about stirring and passing on emotions. I don't really need that for standard hotels because then I know what to expect. But if I want to come up with customized approaches and come up with a tailor-made solution in the near future, which is bookable in virtual reality, then this plays a very important role. On the other hand, this multi-stance marketing offers you ample opportunities. Marriott came up with its famous example. The shower cab was put up in New York and in front of the wedding chapel. People put on their virtual reality glasses, and in the cabins for the honeymooners, which is a large target group of Marriott, different emotions were stirred. So if you try to promote your hotel, a lot can be done. And you can also be sustainable. But back to what I said in the very beginning, I think you always need a tailor-made solution for each and every country, for every client, and for each and every region, because otherwise everything will be the same. I'd like to add to that. We do not only want to focus on trends only, because we want to do what we want to do, and we enjoy it. Of course, you need to focus on the customer, but if you focused on all the customers, you would end up with something which is mediocre. But we do our own thing, and at best, this might be something which is not trendy at all at the current moment in time. But nevertheless, it might please the customers. That's rather our philosophy. I think you need to understand that sometimes you need to bank on mass production and the elements that everybody wants. But, some things are simply compulsory, be it payment, be it booking processes and the like. It's good if different payment transactions are made possible. If PayPal is the most favored solution, fine, you should be able to offer that. And once you've done all that, you can top it up and earn the right to play. You can top it up by adding the beautiful experience, the wonderful emotions which help you differentiate yourself from your competitors. But this is also what we observe when we look at our startups. You always have to lay the foundation and provide the basics. Here, in many sectors, in many companies, a lot of catching up needs to be done in order to come up with a reasonable approach, because the experience gained by the users in innovative companies will simply be transferred to other sectors. The clients are saying, well, it works in this sector. Why is it so complicated in that sector? Mr. Pippig and Mr. Massatti, on a rather general note, the hotel sector, is it willing to be innovative? Or is it rather slow? Is it an early adapter, or is the hotel sector a sector which is trying to catch up? I think the latter holds true. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule when we talk about the entire sector. There are also, of course, regional differences. I have learned from experience that a lot of new developments were set in Asia. The approach to bring about innovative strategies in Asia is much stronger than it is in this country. And there are always good examples. Big players such as Marriott, which are being innovative, they bank on new technologies and try to do everything possible in this regard. But the sector as such, the hotel sector, is very much compartmentalized. Everybody's doing its own thing, looking at what the others are doing. But there is not really a very strong innovative drive, I dare say. Mr. Pippig, I fully subscribe to that particular point of view. I think it is a typical industrial sector where we sort of try to preserve certain investments, real estate or hotels, and we keep it that way for a long period of time. That also holds true for other sectors, because you cannot simply build a new hotel somewhere out in the green field, because it's a major investment. And therefore, we are not that much driven by innovation, as is the case in other sectors, such as the technological sector. But still, I do believe that it's not true to say, well, that's the way it is, so we should keep it to that way. But in and around that, we need to focus on innovations in order to be able to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. Because there are positive results that can be brought about by hotels. Sometimes you see examples that make you say, well, they've found a good solution. They offer a bed and a shower as well. But hardly ever do the clients say, well, this shower is really nice. What always strikes the customers is that a shower is not good. So therefore, I think you really need to come up with a good solution. Mr. Hoffmann, when you look at your sector, if you do not only look at your sector, but across the whole board, do you think you've been judged fairly? Mr. Massatti, you gave us the example of Marriott or hotels in Asia. which are playing a pioneering role. Is it maybe a German problem? Because hotels are not as significant in Germany as they are in Asia. You know, most of our hotels are medium or small size companies which do not really have the resources or the manpower to be really innovative. Well, globally speaking, I'm fully on your page. I don't think that we are the most innovative sector that you can think of. But I think the Germans or German hotels, as I see them, are at a comparable level compared to hotels in other countries. But once again, perception is not only focusing on technology, but also about services. Services also must be made more innovative. So services can be newly defined. But I'm quite optimistic. I think we are not at the bottom of the list. But you see, Apple generates a turnover which probably exceeds the turnover generated by hotels the world over. Or just look at Google. These are globally innovative companies. And in the near future, we won't be able to act in the following fashion. I think it's got something to do with the way in which we position ourselves at the end of the day. At the lower end of prices, you have not seen any innovative developments in Germany, but there were some cases that were quite innovative, which were received very well. At the upper end, there are also innovations where people say, well, this is great, this is wonderful. The problem is, if you're in the middle, if you get stuck in the middle on an old piece of real estate, when you say, okay, I'll ride this horse as long as it is possible before it collapses, then it will become difficult. Because then the client is no longer to pay for it any longer. Just think of taxis. You always pay the same amount of money, no matter whether you're sitting in a really old, run-down Mercedes or a completely new one. The price does not differ, and this is not what the clients don't really like that, understandably so. Okay, now we spoke about the product and the hardware. How about the software that needs to be added? We only briefly touched upon it. Wonderful product with a lot of emotions and experiences. That's one side of the medal, but this is not enough. I spoke about the customer journey, where the purchase is just one of many touch points. There are a lot of touch points between the company and the customer. Modern clients use all potential touch points which are available at the shop, in the internet. Sometimes they use analog or digital devices. They're online, offline. They use all the possible distribution channels in order to retrieve information before they travel and evaluate that trip afterwards. So it's very difficult for you to control all the communication channels and make sure that you use as many touch points as possible. Mr. Hoffmann, you seem to be as creative as possible, and you also invest a lot of money into the product, as one can see. My question to you is, with regards to the customer journey, do you embark on a 25 hours approach as well, if I may call it the 25 hours approach? I don't think that we have reinvented the wheel. At the current moment in time, we are in the fortunate situation, and this is probably one of the most important components of our strategy, that we really take care of the way in which the product is being developed. And at the end of the day, this, of course, influences our sales figures. Of course, this doesn't happen automatically. Of course, we do a lot of marketing, but things work out well. This is why we're much more product-driven. Hopefully, also service-driven in the best of all cases. And we're not so much sales-driven, because I think the old sales instruments that were used in the hotel sector are no longer decisive. The world is turning around so quickly that it's hard for us to understand how the client comes to us with all the different OTAs and the different distribution channels. Things happen very quickly, but we are on board. what's most decisive in our world is that we put a very strong focus on the product. Mr. Pippig. Maria Pütz-Willems made mention of it already. I've been talking about the hotel sector and tourism in general for quite some time. If you think of what happened before, you come across cases which make you say, I've seen that before. In the past, HRS was the big enemy of the conventional hotels. There were no digital processes around, but so some lists were produced. And due to the pooling of demand and resources, the hotels' prices were pushed down. If you look at a discussion on these hotel booking machines, well, it's not HRS any longer, but Booking.com. These are platforms the clients use in order to place a booking. But if you look at the boom that the sharing economy produces with Airbnb, for example, and if you look at the developments that have taken place in recent years, here the hotel sector is complaining. Some hotels turn to the courts in order to sort of slow these new rivals down. But the decisive question is, what do they offer what I can't offer, which attracts the interest of my potential client who prefers to use these platforms? This is a question that many hotels are not able to answer. What is that attributable to? How come that these hotels only focus on one part of the customer journey and they neglect all the other opportunities that arise? Let's stick with the hotel sector and let's lose sight of the sharing economy for the time being. But the level of innovation with regards to bookings was extremely low. Maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe even 5 years ago, if you looked at the websites of hotels and tried to make a reservation, you always had the feeling that you were doing something wrong. Because wherever you were asked, do you have a specific code? Do you have an agent code or a company code or whatever? And I always had the feeling that there is another offer available somewhere. Needs to be better elsewhere. But, once you forgot to type in one field, everything was cancelled. So the booking processes were rather difficult. But the new providers, such as Booking.com and the like, irrespective of the fact that they provide you with compared prices, and if you say, well, I don't really care which hotel I'll be staying at, because I will simply look at the comparisons, that's fine. And this is what people expected when they made a booking. Because we learned from Amazon that these processes can be organized in order to run smoothly. And if you go to a website of a hotel, irrespective of what the hotel is like, if the booking process turns out to be a nightmare, you are not willing to go for it, but you prefer to go elsewhere, where the booking process is easier, where you store all your user data. You can still book a room in that hotel. And then you are left with the feeling that you're not paying too much. Then, Booking.com came up with the best price guarantee. If you book here but find a cheaper price elsewhere, you get a 10% rebate. That was a confidence-building measure also for airlines because everything became so transparent and everybody realized what the real and appropriate price was. But a lot was organized around the booking process. Why? Because there was a lack of confidence and the technology was developed too slowly without the product being addressed, because at the end of the day, well, even if you book via Booking.com, you end up in the same hotel. So there was a lot of room for improvement. Things have improved slightly, but we're 10 years too late. And, there's still lots of room for improvement. A lot more can be done in order to make the experience of staying at a hotel even much better. The sharing economy is a completely new phenomenon, but that's a completely different model. Here you might say, okay, this is a different kind of innovation in a sector. Here you should not only focus on the booking process only. Mr. Hoffmann, I would like to come back to booking or sales procedures. Up until a couple of years ago, there was always this bad slogan saying that in the hotel sector, there are a lot of people who are influential, but most people still think of the wooden cooking spoon because they were trained as a chef or as a waiter and then moved up to a leading position, first in the hotel and maybe in a chain of hotels when they became managers. A concentration on the product is yet due to the fact that people have a very special kind of training. They do not really concentrate that much on the different distribution channels. They always look at the internal developments, but they don't really look at the customers' requests. There are different hotel types, hotel groups, which have been emerging in different ways. I spoke about us as a group which is very much product concentrated. Of course, this does not mean that any other strategy is less significant, but I think with what you've just said, you're actually doing the right thing. In the past, a hotel was a rather local product, and you focused on a good restaurant with a kitchen spoon and a clean room. But all of a sudden, the hotels realized, oh God, the world has gone global. How can I anticipate global developments? And some didn't really understand the world any longer. They found it rather difficult. Therefore, they had to catch up in order to subject themselves to these processes. That also includes the OTAs. They provide you with help in order to get global access if you're not Marriott or a member of a big hotel chain. Or you might also move into a different direction. But I think your idea is right. We are not technology-driven in our hotel sector. There is a group of hotels called Citizen M, which is committed to being a pioneer in the field of technology. This starts off with the experience that you gain at the hotel. You can check in automatically. There are a lot of electronic devices, a lot of automation, but it's also a very smart product when it comes to distribution. A lot of money and a lot of know-how was invested into technological devices, but others set different priorities. And this is what you can see in different hotels. But, at best, you do everything perfectly. What strikes me in this context is that I spent some time in London last year. I went to a hotel which was particularly technology savvy. Maybe I'm too old, but, for me it was quite too much because it took me 20 minutes to find the right switch in order to put on the beautiful lights in the room. I think this hotel was overdoing it. We are reversing some of the trends. We are cooperating with SuperSense coming from Vienna, a very innovative company. This was a guy who bought the last Polaroid company in order to keep Polaroids alive. In Prater Street 170, he wants to establish a very special hotel where you can press your own disc, or here you can use all your analog devices. And at SuperSense, we only want to use analog devices. This brings us back to the past, basically. We are not that dependent on modern technology any longer. We do not only and exclusively want to focus on tech only. Technology and high tech does not always have to be the same. Here, too, the basics need to be made available. I always carry out a test in order to find out whether I like a hotel or not. And these are two things. 50% of the hotels fail. Is there a plug beside the bed? A socket? And not one that you can only get access to if you pull out the plug of the light. And the second test is, can I switch off all the lights in the room while lying in my bed? This is basic technology, you know, but in 50% of all hotels, it doesn't work that way. And if we've got problems in this particular way, we don't have to do anything else. A hotel with 150 rooms, being able to switch on or off the light costs you 200,000 to 300,000 euros because you didn't plan ahead in the proper fashion. No, 300,000 to 500,000 euros is what it costs. And in some hotels we decided, well, if the room is not too large, maybe you've got to press 3 buttons in order to switch off the light because it's quite costly. But I'm fully on your page. There is nothing wrong then lying down in your bed, thinking that you can actually sleep, and then all of a sudden you have to get up again in order to switch off the light. And then you pull out the plug because you can't find the button where to switch off the light. We are running out of time, but Mr. Massatti, would you be so kind to answer the last question before we give the audience the chance to come to the floor? Is there a process of mind setting taking place? Well, it can't be done overnight. And this is very much in line with what the two of you said before. I think that this difference between digital and analog is quite good, but it does not necessarily have to be a juxtaposition. We do realize that if you want to change anything about a company, and if you want to change the culture of innovation, it takes a while. And you don't necessarily have to move into one other direction or the other, but things can be intertwined. We created a company which is called Plenum, devoted to questions concerning innovative labs. How can new ideas be developed in companies, and how can the culture of innovation be developed? Because we said innovative spaces, innovative rooms need to be created in order to be able to change the culture of innovation in the company. So you've got to leave the company and go to a hotel. I'm sorry, but this is not really the right idea, because you should develop new ideas from within before you go to a 25 hours hotel in order to get new incentives or have a party, instead of trying to be free and creative within your own rooms. I think this takes time. You need a lot of good food for thought from external experts, a lot of new ideas that you cannot find from within, but you also need internal experts who are creative and innovative. Many people, not only one. And you also need to join forces between the different worlds. Digital and analog is a very good example, because we use a lot of cardboard. Cardboard is a sustainable product. It's highly flexible. People can reshape the room according to their liking. They can develop products further. And this is how they can understand that they can also modify the company. In the tourism sector, this is very beneficial, because we also always try to find out what's particularly important for our sector. But the question that people ask us many times, do you want to move more towards digital or analog? It's a question where you might say, okay, get the basics right. This is what you said in the very beginning. But from then on, you can develop a rather smooth process in order to change the corporate culture. Both processes need to go hand in hand with each other, and you need to be aware of the fact that this cannot be achieved overnight, neither internally nor externally. You can't simply say, well, from tomorrow onwards we'll be fully innovative, although we were never innovative in the past. Nobody will be able to live that in the company, and the clients will not be able to understand it. If things take time, everybody will understand where we are headed. But a good concept is what it really takes, but it needs to be credible. One quick question from the audience, if there is a question. You were the first person to take the floor. My name is Erno. I come from Istanbul. I have a question. The title of this session is Guests Become Fans. Those who go to the hotel once or twice and come again and again and again, that's fine. But now that I have listened to you, I don't know how this should become possible. The people that are coming to a hotel need to be retained. You need to speak to them. You need to make them, you need to encourage them to become fans. I don't have the feeling that if I came to your hotels, I could become a fan. You know, you have to try to retain people. That's what's most important. You've got to accept people, give people the feeling that they're always welcome when they come again and again and again to this particular hotel. Right, I think this was rather a comment than a question. Isn't that true? We spoke a lot about the subject matter where this particular aspect is being neglected, but that's what hotels are all about. But this aspect should not be neglected. The magic moment. How am I being welcomed? What is the service that the hotel manager offers to me? We predominantly focused on technology and innovation, but innovation also needs to be reflected in the services that we offer in hotels. That's of utmost significance. So thank you very much for your new idea. We'll take that up. But one last question to the audience, where we focus only and exclusively on the TED question for you in the audience. Please use your remote control device in order to answer the following question. You can answer this question with a yes, a no, or a maybe. You can press the Y, the N, or the question mark button for maybe. So the question is, in the future, will technology become the most important success factor for hotels? And please give us your vote now.
Keiner.
Did no one participate? Oh, here we go. These are the results. Okay. This is very much in support of the question that you just asked. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks to you in the audience. Thanks to the panelists. I hope that you will have a pleasant stay in Berlin at the ITB. Thank you.